Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S4 4008 First Kids by Gibbs Davis. Growing up in the White House. Imagine your mom or dad is elected President of the United States. That makes you first kid. Overnight you are famous and you're about to move into the White House. The White House has 132 rooms, not counting secret passageways. The first family lives in 8 rooms on the second floor. Lots of people visit the White House, even famous people. First kids get to meet their favorite sports and movie stars. At state dinners, you might be able to say, "Please pass the salt, Your Highness." Bored, the White House has a movie theater, swimming pool, and bowling alley. Tired of waiting for the school bus? First kids travel by limousine and private jet. Can you guess the one thing first kids don't have? Privacy. For safety, Secret Service agents follow them everywhere. They even have secret code names. If you are shy, you might not like being first kid. The whole world is watching you grow up. Your picture is in newspapers and on TV. Strangers know your shoe size. Almost 200 children have lived in the White House. Some first kids loved it. Others couldn't wait to leave. Would you like to live there? Read about some former first kids. Then decide for yourself. Ted and Willie Lincoln, 1861 to 1865. Abraham Lincoln and his wife had 4 sons, Robert, Edward, William, and Thomas. Mr. Lincoln said baby Thomas was as wiggly as a tadpole. He called him Ted. The nickname stuck. When Mr. Lincoln became president, Robert was away at college. Eddie had died of diphtheria before Willie was born. So Willie and Ted had the White House all to themselves. Willie and Ted were famous for their pranks. One time they rang for help in every room in the mansion. Servants ran in every direction trying to answer their call. Another time the boys drove their pet goats to one of Mrs. Lincoln's parties. The goats were pulling chairs with the boys on them. No place in the White House was off limit. Willie and Ted turned the mansion's roof into a battleship. They blasted the cabinet room door with a toy cannon. Ted set up a lemonade stand in the entrance hall and charged all the president's visitors for a drink. Nothing could separate Willie and Ted except death. Willie came down with typhoid fever. At age 11, he was the first child to die in the White House. 9-year-old Ted and his father became closer than ever. They even had their own secret code. 3 raps on the door followed by 2 short bangs. No matter how busy, the president promised to always open the door when hearing the code. One day, Ted wanted to go for a drive. He knocked on the president's office door using the secret code. The president was in an important meeting, but he left it to join Ted and his pet goat for a carriage ride. The Secretary of War made Ted a lieutenant. He had his own Union Army uniform, which he called his blues. Ted liked to march the servants up and down the lawn. They secretly called him the tyrant of the White House. Jesse Root Grant, 1869-1877. Jesse Root Grant liked his father's new job. The President of the United States got to work at home. Before he was president, Ulysses S. Grant had been a famous general. He was away for years fighting in the Civil War. Now they spent more time together. Every clear night, President Grant and Jesse headed for the White House roof. Jesse had a telescope. They stayed up late studying the stars together. Jesse's brothers were away at college. His older sister Nellie was busy with parties. 11-year-old Jesse could have been lonely, but he had lots of friends. Jesse and his friends turned the White House tool shed into the secret clubhouse. They called themselves the KFR Society. No one but them knew what the initial stood for. President grants gas, the kick, fight, and run society. Jesse had bad luck with pet dogs. They all died, and someone sent him a huge black Newfoundland named Old Faithful. President Grant warned the servants, if this dog dies, you are all fired. Luckily, all the faithful lived a long, long time. Stamp collecting was Jesse's favorite hobby. Once Jesse and his cousin sent away $5 for some foreign stamp. The stamp didn't come. President Grant asked the policeman to help his son. The policeman wrote this letter. I'm a Capitol policeman. I can arrest anybody, anywhere, at any time for anything. I want you to send those stamps to Jesse Grant right at once. A few days later, the stamps arrived. The Roosevelt Zoo, 1901-1909. Theodore Roosevelt had 6 fun-loving children. They ranged in age from 4 to 17. The White House was one big playground to them. The Roosevelts had more pets than any other first family. The animals had free run of the White House. You might find a badger in the bathtub or a jumping kangaroo resting in someone's coat pocket. One time, Archie Roosevelt was sick in bed with measles. He missed his pet pony, Algonquin. His brothers and sisters knew just how to cheer him up. They snuck the pony into the elevator up and down to Archie's room. Archie and Quentin Roosevelt formed the White House gang. 6 other boys joined them, including the vice president's son. Quentin was their leader. They had a clubhouse and a secret handshake. The White House gang was always getting in trouble. The boys skated down hallways and flicked the spitballs at famous portrait. Arch liked sliding down the staircase on silver trays. Quentin was an expert steel walker. Alice Roosevelt loved pranks as much as her brothers did. She had a pet snake named Emily Spinach, was as skinny as her aunt Emily and as green as spinach. She hid her pet snake in her purse. At a party, she let Emily slither out among the guests. Alice became the most famous teenager in the country, the beautiful and playful, and she was known as the Princess Alice. She even had a color named for her, Alice Blue. The Coolidge Boys, 1923-1929. Calvin Coolidge had 2 teenage sons, John and Calvin Jr. They went to school in Pennsylvania. The White House was their home only during summer and on holidays. Nicknamed Silent Cal, President Coolidge was a quiet man. His sons weren't so quiet. Calvin Jr. and John were typical teenage boys. Their nicknames were Cal and Butch. Life in the 20s was wild and exciting, but President Coolidge was a stern father. He wouldn't let his sons entertain friends or go to parties. Mrs. Coolidge was more fun-loving. She wanted her sons to learn all the popular dances. A young dance-loving doorman named Johnson taught them to do the Charleston. The boys loved his stories about his flapper lady friends and the secret saloons called the Speakeasy in New York's Harlem. Butch and Cal's first Christmas in the White House was filled with excitement. A giant spruce tree arrived by train. It came all the way from Vermont. On Christmas Eve night, a crowd gathered around the huge tree. Cal and Butch stood by beside the father. As he pushed the button, 1,000 white lights lit up the tree. Everyone oohed and ahed at the dazzling sight. It was the first national Christmas tree. During the summer vacation, Cal and Butch liked to play tennis. One day, Cal played barefoot and got a blister. It turned into an infection and he died. Oh my God. On the day of Cal's funeral, all government departments closed down. Everyone mourned the president's son. The Kennedy kids. John Jr. was born just before the Kennedys moved into the White House. Everyone thought a new baby was good luck. The president nicknamed his son John John. John John had an older sister, 3-year-old Caroline. She was nicknamed the Button Nose. When Caroline arrived at the White House, It was winter. The chief gardener made a huge snowman to greet her. Caroline and John didn't have to go far to get to school. Just a short walk to the White House elevator and one flight up. Caroline joined 11 other first graders and John joined his nursery school classmates at their own private school on the third floor. The children's playground was near President Kennedy's office. Caroline's favorite game there was jumping on the trampoline. After recess, the class liked to visit the president. His secretary always had candy for them on her desk. President Kennedy traveled a lot. When Caroline's classmates heard his helicopter, everyone shouted, "Your daddy's home!" They raced to the window and watched him land on the White House lawn. At story time, Caroline always asked for horse stories. She had her own pet pony named Macaroni. Her mother taught her to ride horseback. Sometimes Caroline was allowed to go to White House parties. She helped the mother play hostess. Once the Marine Band played Caroline's favorite song, "Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O." Caroline and John Jr. had 13 cousins. During the summer, they played together at their family home by the beach in Massachusetts. In the winter, back at the White House, Caroline and John Jr. missed their fun-loving cousin. Caroline and John Jr. had something even better. Their father was just down the hall for a bedtime story and a good night hug. The Johnson Girls, 1963 to 1969. President Lyndon Baines Johnson was nicknamed the LBJ. Everyone in his family had the same initial. His wife was Lady Bird Johnson. His daughter were Linda Bird Johnson and Lucy Baines Johnson. President called Linda and Lucy "my little girls." Lucy was 16 when her father became president. Right after moving into the White House, she started spelling her name Lucy. Lucy's first night in the White House, she had a sleepover. Her new room had a fireplace. When Lucy lit the fire, smoke filled the air. The girls shouted for help. They had forgotten to open the fireplace damper. 19-year-old Linda went to college in Washington, D.C. Linda and her friend, Mary Lynn, became roommates in the White House. Secret Service followed Linda to classes and even to parties. Lucy and Linda had their own Secret Service code names. Linda was Gypsy. Lucy was Venus. When Mrs. Johnson was sick, Linda took over the First Lady's job. She read her father's speeches and graded them ABC. Being the president's daughters made it hard to date. Secret Service agents never left the girls alone. Some boys were frightened away. But both Linda and Lucy fell in love while living in the White House. Lucy married first. She had a big wedding reception in the White House. Her sister Linda cut the bouquet. It worked. Soon after, Linda got married in the White House too. Chelsea Clinton, 1993-2001. Most first kids have brothers or sisters to share the spotlight, but 12-year-old Chelsea Clinton was an only child, unless you count Socks, a black and white cat. Chelsea's first few months in the White House were tough. It felt like living in a big museum. She missed the grandparents and friends back in Little Rock, Arkansas. It was hard going to a new school. When Chelsea arrived, all the classroom doors had to be locked. Everyone had to knock and give their names before entering. Some of Chelsea's classmates were mad at her for all the new rules. But after a while, everyone relaxed. There were no more locked doors. Everyone got to know the president's daughter. They found out she was a regular kid. At school, Chelsea played soccer and baseball. Math and science were her best subject. One Christmas, she danced in a ballet production of The Nutcracker. Her dream was to become an astronaut. On Chelsea's 13th birthday, she had a big slumber party. She invited old friends from Little Rock and new friends from Washington, D.C. The big mansion at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue was beginning to feel like home. The Clintons tried to protect Chelsea from the media, but they couldn't stop all the TV and newspaper reporter. Hurtful stories came out about her hair and braces. One time, Chelsea fell asleep in church. A photographer took a picture of her snoring. Chelsea got hundreds of fan letters. Kids from all over the United States tried to comfort her. They said they knew how she felt. Sometimes Chelsea wasn't sure if people really liked her or just liked being around the president's daughter. But she did know one thing for sure. I should give up being first kid for anything. Once the first kid, always the first kid. The end.